Hello and welcome to our Busy Webinar. This is Dave Meyer with BizzyWeb. We're going to talk through your social now what? How to find out which networks are right for you and how to use them. I'd like to start today's webinar with a special happy birthday to my father, Al Meyer. He listens to every single one of these like a good father does. So happy birthday, Grandpa Al, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Let's get into our content for the day. And first, here's how to get a hold of us. So if you have a question or would like the slides from today's webinar, please go ahead and send me an email at dave@bizzyweb.com or send us a call. Give us a call at 612-4BUSY-O, 612-424-9990. If you would like those slides and to get a hold of us, that's the way to do it. Also, since the new update to Google+, there are a few different ways that you can reach us, and we've changed the way we accept questions. So as you go down, what we'd love to have you do is send us a tweet instead of asking via the Q&A tool on Google's Hangouts, because the Q&A tool on Hangouts has been sunset by Google. So the best way to do that, if you would like to ask a question to the presenter, just go in here, click on this link, and it'll take you over to Twitter, where you can search for the hashtag BizzyWebinar. That's #BIZZY webinar. And if you search for that, you'll be able to see what people are asking, and you can also submit your own questions there. You do need to have a Twitter account to do this, but most of the folks on here would be able to handle that, I'm sure. And so please go ahead and ask us questions, or if you'd like us to comment on specific issues or challenges that you're facing, that is how to do it. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. Just wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do and why we're into all of this stuff. BizzyWeb is a digital marketing agency, and we focus on all aspects of marketing for our clients, whether it's email, social media, content marketing, Google AdWords, or other kinds of advertising, and of course, web design. We're based right out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and we've created some fantastic WordPress-powered web designs, several hundred of them, in fact, over the past 17 years. We'd love to help you out with how all of this stuff works, and so please do get a hold of us at hello@bizzyweb.com if you would like to find out more. I wanted to start with a quick overview of what digital marketing does. Engagement is really the way everyone interacts with the world now. So instead of connecting with each other over the water cooler or over the white picket fence in the olden days, now we connect with these little things. We tweet each other, we send messages to each other on Facebook. Of course, we send emails and other content. And more often than not, people are interacting with the mobile device in their hand more than they are even giving you a call. So it's important to have a fantastic experience. And as you look at that, your job as a marketing professional or as a business owner who is responsible for marketing in your organization to provide a wow experience. You really need to spell out what it means to work with your company or with your organization, whether it's a nonprofit or a B2B or a B2C business. It all is the same. You have to have a good-looking website that's going to reassure people, and you need to take that wow experience through your marketing and through having good-looking and good content as far as what you share to entice people to stay in touch. You entice people to stay in touch by engaging with them. And we're going to talk a lot today about engagement. What you're going to do is you're going to reach out to people, you're going to entertain, you're going to educate them, you're going to inform them on what's important for them in their business. And we're going to share a little bit about how to know those things and how to know how to target that kind of content throughout all of the big networks. Engaging is built for two things, both to drive business to you and then also to drive social visibility. Once people see you, and if a friend or fan of yours on Facebook shares your content, someone else is likely to see that content, and that social visibility will then drive new prospects to your door. That takes everything off your plate and allows your digital marketing to serve as your ancillary sales team, actively reaching out to people in a way that we just haven't been able to do ever before. If you've signed on for our social media 101 or getting started with social media, this is intended to be a level 2 on that kind of content. And so what we are going to talk through today are the top 5 networks, and specifically what to say and how to say it, as well as how to measure each of these 5 networks. We're going to talk about how to create and curate content in order to get you to the next level with your business and to continue to engage, inform, capture, and convert. And then we're going to talk about how to use photos, word images, and video to further engage your prospects. There's a whole new world of things out there, and it's much, much more than just text. The great news is that it continues to get much easier to share that type of content as long as you know a few basic tenets of what to do and how to do it. So we'll share that. We'll round up with some next steps and some Q&A. Before I go further, I wanted to share just one amazing thing that I've learned about just yesterday. We have an exclusive offer for attendees of this webinar. We only do this for actual attendees, or I'm only allowed to do this for actual attendees of our events. And for the first 3 months, Constant Contact is offering you $5 a month for your email marketing program. There's a no limit on the list size for this $5 a month. So if you're interested in spending $15 to do an unlimited amount of emails to an unlimited list size, this is the best deal we've ever been able to offer. And it's only for people that attend our physical events. And you need to click on this link, or you need to enter this link in order to take advantage of this today. And that's at constantcontact.com/event-Meyer. Again, I'm Dave Meyer, and this is how this works. This is only for the month of September, and I'll never be sharing this after this month. So thanks. And if you're interested, fantastic. This presentation is brought to you in part with Constant Contact. And so that's how I'm able to offer this kind of a deal. So give us a check out, and I'll give you one last link at the very end if you're interested. Let's get right into our content for the day. Today, we want to talk through all of these social networks. And again, then we're going to go into content, imagery, and then the next steps. Let's start with the big dog, Facebook. Facebook's business value is to reach large audiences with targeted messaging. You can be incredibly engaging, and you can share exactly the right content to your clients, and you can target that content by having a set number of informative calls to action inside of there. But you have to think about what your client is really most interested in. You have to be aware of Facebook's algorithm, and I'm going to go into that in a couple of slides. But Facebook has insider tips or rules for how to show up in your digital marketing better than if you just post. And the insights, or the edge rank, has really dramatically declined for businesses that don't pay attention to these key tenets. If you had 1,000 fans on your Facebook page before, like 3 years ago, if you had those 1,000 fans, you could pretty much guarantee that about 300 or 400 people would see every single thing you posted on your Facebook page. Now that number is more like 30 or 40. There's only about a 3% conversion rate if you don't do something to boost your Facebook algorithm. And we'll talk about that again. You can also use Facebook's Insights tool to figure out how to get more interaction by figuring out what's working and who you're specifically targeting. There's some really amazing stuff that you can do inside of analytics for all of the tools that we're going to talk about today. But let's dig in a little bit more on content for Facebook. Finding content for Facebook revolves around 3 big keys: sharing videos, sharing photos, and sharing status updates. Videos are by far the most engaging piece of content that you can share on Facebook. And with Facebook Live, you can now get a tremendous amount of edge rank out of a simple share of your video. The key thing with Facebook Live is that it's on your mobile device only. There are ways to get around that, but it's very in-depth, and you need to set up a streaming service and all kinds of other stuff. So for most intents and purposes, for you as a marketer today, you're going to need to have your phone in your hand, an Android or an iOS device, and you're going to need to click the share or start Facebook Live button in your videos. In general, that video is square, and you can share that content immediately. So it goes live. And what we've seen at BizzyWeb is from at worst a few dozen to at most a few hundred people have been engaged with our client base or with our videos. And at the end of each one of our Bizzy webinars that I do, we publish a Facebook Live Bizzy Webinar Lite. So that's been incredibly engaging for our clients. Sharing videos is important, and you need to make sure that you're sharing with the intent of embedding and having people see that video content in the timeline. And what I mean by that is using closed captions is a very good idea on Facebook video, because as people are scrolling through the timeline, they won't by default hear the audio on your video. So if you spend thousands of dollars on a gorgeous video that James Earl Jones is narrating, and you fade up from black for 5 seconds while you have, the voice of Darth Vader sharing that content and getting people excited, no one's going to see it and no one's going to hear it, because all they're going to see as they're scrolling through their timeline is a black video that doesn't have any content on it, and it just looks like a big black box. So make sure that you engage, and especially if you have voiceover on your video, make sure that you're using the closed captioning tool. With photos, it's a little bit easier, and you can actually do some edits in Facebook posts now with imagery. You can set filters just like you can in Instagram. You can crop and curate and tag, but having that kind of content, again, stands out quite a bit more than having simple text updates. Not to say that status updates and other things aren't valuable, because they do include key phrases, and you can use links to webinars and posts, but the more the merrier as far as engaging content like videos and photos. Text is fine, but high quality multimedia content really rules across most of these networks, but Facebook in particular. A little bit more on EdgeRank. Algorithm on EdgeRank, which is the likelihood that your post will show up in other people's timelines, based itself on the interest of your fans. So if you have fans that are interested in the topic that you're posting about, that's more likely that they'll show up. So if you have a butterfly collecting post and you have someone that's showed specific interest in butterfly collecting, they're much more likely to see that. The post performance among other users. So if someone has seen and shared that post, it's more likely to show up in other places on Facebook. And you'll see this all the time in your timeline. You see on occasion people that share posts saying, no one's probably going to share this, but I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say about X, Y, and Z, and I dare you to share this content. Facebook's algorithm actively shows those. So even if you never really see people share or like content on your page or via your Facebook updates, having that type of a post on Facebook makes it quite likely that everyone that's connected with you is going to see that. And you'll notice that usually the people that feature that kind of content, you haven't seen anything from them in your timeline for quite a while. Well, it's just a highly shared kind of post. That post has performed very well with other people in that person's network or in that company's network, so it's more likely to be shared. The takeaway for you on that is to ask that people share your content. Say, please share if you enjoyed, or link to it and making a post about, let's see how many people can connect. We have clients who are banks, for example, that they say, for every like we get, we're going to donate $1 to a charity. That kind of content tends to be very engaging and much more likely that people are going to see and share that content. A third thing for your performance of your EdgeRank is the performance of your past posts. This is where clients of ours that have large followings tend to enjoy easier go with connecting out and getting shared. If your content tends to be popular, Facebook's going to give you the benefit of the doubt and probably just keep on sharing your content. And so this is one of those things where, as a brand new company or as someone that's just starting in social media, you're going to have to work just a little bit harder than someone that's long and established. But also on the good side of that, once you get a following, your edge rank naturally creeps up. And then finally, the type of posts that the users prefer. So if they like video content or if they like how-tos and you share a how-to, that's going to be much more likely to show up on that person's timeline, as well as how recent that post is. And so if you've posted something in or today on Facebook, that post is much more likely to show up on people's timelines than something that you posted last week. And you're almost guaranteed to not get seen if your content gets much older than a few days. So having that content and really even setting posts to republish at a couple times during a given day is a great way to make sure that you're creeping your edge rank higher. So if you have an event that you're trying to promote, having a repeated post that goes out in the morning and then hits the afternoon crowd and then hits the evening crowd with reposts is a great way to get more engagement on your posts. You want to balance this with not spamming, of course, and not sharing too much content, but don't be shy about getting behind and marketing the content that you're most excited about. The Insights tool can tell you a lot about how all this stuff is working for you. You can see what types of posts are doing well and reach out, and you can see the different integrations. So videos, links, and photos in this example are highlighted in this type of post. You can see engagement metrics, so the types of posts and what's working inside of those posts. So in this case, that top post with the long yellow bars is doing very well. Look at that type of post and say, well, what was it about that post that made my content so popular? It might be that it was posted at the right time of day for your fans, and I'll share with you a little bit about how to know what time of day in a couple of slides, but you'll know exactly what and exactly how to share your content if you look at the engagement metrics. You can also see who engages with your content, whether it's women or men, if they're fans of yours and when they're not. And of course, I've mentioned, but when your fans are actually online, you can see that right inside of Facebook's algorithm. And depending on the type of business that you're serving, the general rule for business to business, if you're trying to reach business people that are in corporate jobs and that might be sitting in front of their computer all day, from 10 a.m. to 2 or 3 p.m., Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is a great time to generally post your content if you're serving that market. However, if you have a market or a target that tends to not be at their computers and that may only be checking content first thing in the morning on their mobile device or over lunch or late at night after they get done with their workday, you're going to want to check that content and make sure that it's actually working and that you're publishing as close to those peak times for your viewers as possible. So what to do next now that you know all of this? Here's what you do. You first find out what content is working for your fans. Look at those analytics and insights and see what the popular things are. Try Facebook Live, and we'll have a seminar on this soon because it's really important, and we're seeing a lot of great interaction on our Facebook Live. It's the best thing for edge rank and engagement right now because Facebook is throwing its weight behind this in battle with Snapchat and other video delivery feeds like Periscope and Vine and other things. So those kinds of content can be very, very powerful, and Facebook's putting its weight behind it. Creating and sharing content that your clients want. Again, look at the metrics and analytics. Some folks are going to respond well to different types of posts. People might really love webinar content. They might really love quotes. They might like humorous things. They might like links to white papers or special content. Again, depending on your client base or your prospects and what you're trying to get them to do and what you mean to them, it's going to be a completely different and optimized experience for each different customer. So you have to take that bet and go when and where they're expecting your content to be. And then using Facebook's scheduling tool to post when your fans are online. And finally, of course, evaluate your insights. Monthly, you're going to want to look kind of high level and check to see if anything's pointing out or if any outliers are hitting. Like, wow, we had amazing interactions on this one post, so we want to do more about that. And then take a deeper dive once a quarter and just say, okay, well, what type of content seems to be trending? Your readership times might be changing as you go through every quarter. And so think about that, adjust for seasonality, adjust for anything that pops up when you look at the numbers. The easy thing is that the numbers are there. You just have to look, but it's not always easy to take that extra 5 minutes to dig through some of the insights that you have access to. I'm going to stop for a second. Just make sure that there's no questions on the hashtag BizzyWebinar. Again, if you do have a question, log into Twitter and hit us with the hashtag #BizzyWebinar. I'm going to refresh this page just real quick to make sure we don't have questions. If you have questions on Facebook, content, anything that's going to make sense for you, we'd love to see that here. So go ahead and post us that link. We'd love to help you however we can. All right, seeing no, we're going to keep moving forward with Twitter. So Twitter, the business value is really, it's the fastest way to reach your audience. You can stand out with your tweets, with the content that you post. In general with Twitter, you want to try mostly to be helpful. And then of course, using Twitter analytics, which can be very powerful to see what kind of content people are engaging with, you can continue to optimize what you share, what you retweet, what you repost, and who you follow. Twitter content that works, images, short tweets, and hashtags are in general really, really nice content. Again, the more you can stand out by offering optimized content or things that are built to stand out. Simple text tweets can be very engaging, but you need to, at times at least, feature content that's going to stand out a little bit in the timeline as someone sitting with their phone in line at the supermarket, scrolling up and down. You want something that's going to stand out a little bit more. And an image or a short tweet with a link can be very engaging. Hashtags, of course, are the art of using a £. As our hashtag for today, it's BizzyWebinar. So be sure to use hashtags and either search for trending topics if you're kind of stumped for what to share. If you're at a conference or if you're holding an event, use a hashtag for that event so that people can talk about it. But don't be afraid to ride the lightning and enter conversations a little bit with additional helpful input. So look at the hashtags that are out there, do some searches, find out what people are talking about, and then inject yourself into those hashtags. One word of caution, make sure that you do research the hashtag before you use it, because people use hashtags all the time and they can co-opt those hashtags, or there might be a conversation that doesn't fit with the people that you're trying to reach or the message that you're trying to convey when you do use a hashtag blindly. There's a lot of great examples, but you just don't in general want to start entering into a conversation. It's the equivalent of interjecting in a conversation midstream, right? So if someone's talking about something that tends to, or that for some reason has a very political or very, I don't know, just kind of a inflammatory bent, jumping into that with some innocuous tweet from your company can actually backfire pretty crazily. So search is always your friend. Make sure that you research any hashtag that you use, but don't be afraid to jump into conversations either. With Twitter, be helpful as much as possible. Linking to blog posts from you or experts that you know or follow, offering facts, stats, tips, links to your content or links to other places on the web, answering customer questions. If you have a frequently asked questions section on your website, that's a great thing to tweet about and to link back to, because that's what you know that your customers are already asking for. Participate in conversations, adding people or doing the ampersand and then people's usernames, engaging them, thanking them for following you, adding to bits of conversation that other people are having that support the kinds of content that your business works in, can be very, very powerful. One of the soft keys, however, is to not make it all about you. Jumping onto any of these social networks and just saying, half off for the next 15 minutes with X, Y, and Z isn't nearly as exciting or enticing for people to interact with than just answering people's questions or helpful and insightful information. So jumping in with content that's designed to sell is usually not a good strategy for engaging, especially on Twitter, but really with any social media. You know, your motto, your creed in social media should be to help, not to necessarily to sell. And when you do offer that next step or that call to action, the call to action that you provide should feel like a foregone conclusion. People should be asking, well, gosh, what do I do next? And then you tell them what you do next is you find us, you follow us, you attend this event, or of course, once in a while, you can link to why don't you just buy our product or service? But don't make it all about that or it's going to backfire. Twitter's analytics can be very, very powerful. You can see mentions on Twitter. You can see top tweets and what people are doing. So out of all the tweets that you've made, you can see what your most popular content is. You can see what content has the most engagement, and you can also grab audience insights. So you can dig in and really see who's working with you or who's most interactive with your company and with what you're doing on social media and especially on Twitter. Very, very powerful stuff that not a lot of people think about. A lot of people just visit Twitter and they kind of view it as the CB radio of the digital age. You know, people go out there, but they don't realize that everything that you post, you can actually see how many people are clicking on that, retweeting it, sharing interest in it. And don't be discouraged if you have a small follower-ship. An easy way to get more followers is to follow more people, but make sure that they actually will get some value out of what you share when you post that content. What to do next in Twitter? Keep track of what tweets get the most engagement, creating and sharing content that's going to get you the best results. You can consider using a scheduling tool like Hootsuite or Buffer to repost your top tweets and to get content out there. Evaluate your analytics, of course, with all of these monthly and then quarterly, along the same lines as Facebook. Let's talk through LinkedIn. The business value of LinkedIn is establishing your expertise. You can share what you know and what you've read in life over LinkedIn. That's kind of what people expect. It's the professional network. So this is a little bit more esoteric. It's a little bit more navel-gazing. And that's not a real word, but it works for me. This is the content that is insightful, is helpful. You should be an information source inside of LinkedIn, and especially on your LinkedIn company page or inside of the LinkedIn publishing tool. You know, having helpful and interesting content can be very, very engaging and helps you grow with people that are more likely to refer business to you. You can, of course, use LinkedIn Analytics to see what's happening. And with LinkedIn's analytics, you can dig in even further on the type of person that's interacting and visiting your content. LinkedIn content that works includes blog posts and longer posts, images and things that are out there. From this example, intoxication, that nice feeling you get when you receive a tax refund until you realize it was your own money in the first place. And then content like helpful links, you know, or federal employment law updates for September. You know, that kind of content can be incredibly engaging and helpful. The key with LinkedIn, more than any of these, is that you want to help more than you want to sell. People engage and interact on LinkedIn groups or make posts on LinkedIn that are overtly promotional. Largely, you can see by the numbers and by the interactions, and certainly you'll see it in your analytics, most of that content falls flat because people aren't on LinkedIn to get sold. People are on LinkedIn to do research about if they want to work with you by looking at the content you post. Do you know what you're saying? Are you an expert in your field? Do you have helpful insights? That's what people are interested in on LinkedIn. They want to know if you can work with them and if you know what you're talking about. Building your expertise by being an information source is huge. You can share current news from your industry. You know, you probably subscribe to trade publications or have feeds that you follow on the web or via social media that your clients, that your best referral partners don't do. And so sharing that content makes you that source of information. So getting that content out there can be very powerful. Offering and asking for perspective on current topics. So if you have content that you have a unique perspective on because you're an expert in your industry, sharing that content. Always use keywords for SEO. So focus on the things that your best clients would search for if they were going to do business with you. What's their key pain point, and what would they search when that pain point arises? Make sure that you're connecting and that you use those words in your posts, because that's usually how people find that content if they don't already know you. They're going to search for their problem on the web or on LinkedIn, and you want to have a post that answers that content, that says, here's the issue, we understand the issue, and here's some of the ways we could help solve it. Post regularly on LinkedIn, at least once a week, in order to commit and to have some good follow through and follow up. So making sure that you're consistent. If you go crazy on LinkedIn and post 15 times in a week and then let it go for a year and a half, people are going to wonder if you're still doing business. So make sure that it's at least weekly, and post something small once a week. You can be more aggressive if you want, but make sure that whatever you do, you can be consistent because that's what shows that you're serious about your business and about the content that you share. LinkedIn's analytics tool is incredibly powerful. You can see clicks and interactions, what types of content people are engaging with, just like with Twitter. You can see their engagement and what they're liking, what they're clicking on, how long they've been on your pages. You can see follower demographics, whether they're owners, how long they've been in business, what types of industries they're in, the typical demographics like where they physically are located, male, female, level of education, that kind of stuff. And same goes for visitors, where you can see more detail, whether those people are CTOs or C-suite people, whether it's business owners, whether it's lower level professionals that are interacting with your content. And that'll help you to gauge the content specifically around what those people are interested in. So if you see that you have mostly business owners on your LinkedIn page, as we do at BizzyWeb, then sharing content that's at that level is going to be much more informative and helpful for those people than if you wrote for the local intern. And vice versa, if most of your clients are, or if most of your readers are lower level folks or are just getting started in their careers, don't go too high level or too esoteric, because you want to write content that engages them at whatever level those folks are. So what to do next on LinkedIn? Start a blog or use LinkedIn's publisher tool in order to get content out there. You can set status updates at any time on LinkedIn, but they have this write a post button now. And if you write a post, you can insert content. It's exactly like writing a blog post, where you can add content, you can add imagery or videos, you can include SlideShare videos or SlideShare content, because LinkedIn owns SlideShare. It makes it very easy. You can embed YouTube videos. All of that content is super easy and very, very effective at getting the word out. You can create and share content that's getting the best results. You can share that content from a variety of sources. And of course, feeling like a broken record here, but it's important, evaluate your analytics monthly and quarterly. With Pinterest, it's a little bit different. The business value is to drive people to your website mostly. You want to share eye-catching images, promote and provide value at every turn, and using Pinterest analytics is going to keep you on course. Pinterest content that works includes beautiful imagery, of course. This is designed, and if you're not familiar with Pinterest, Pinterest is really a virtual scrapbook of helpful and interesting content that people find all over the web. Word images are also super interesting. There are tools like Canva, and I'm going to cover this in a little bit. So, don't worry about writing down all of these links and tools, but you can grab interesting imagery, put a quote from you or something interesting or inspirational or useful in text over the top of that image and post it on Pinterest. And then one really weird thing about Pinterest, using long images, taller images, makes those images stand out much better as people are scrolling through the Pinterest app or looking at your content on Pinterest itself. When you promote or provide value on Pinterest, you're going to be sharing product photos, perhaps. You're going to link to blog posts and content that works for you. And the key is to use the right keywords in the titles and descriptions, because how people find content on Pinterest is they search. And if your content isn't tagged or labeled to match what you know your clients are going to be searching for, then your content probably won't show up. So make sure that you use those titles and descriptions correctly. The key is to maintain balance and share content not just from you. Again, don't make it all about you and your content, about your website, about the things that you share most, but also feel free to invite others in. At BizzyWeb, if you look at our Pinterest page at pinterest.com/BizzyWeb, you'll see that we have tips and tricks, infographics, we have examples of our work, and we also have partners that we link out to. And all of that content, again, it's designed to engage people at different levels because we have a different client base depending on the types of content or the types of services we're looking to promote. Pinterest analytics obviously give you detail to know more about what's interesting. You can see engagement level posts, what content of yours is the most popular by pin and it gets repinned, people that have pinned things from your website if you use the tool, so you can see what's getting pinned, and the content that's going to be most engaging. So it'll give you an idea of the types of things to keep including on your website and to pin from your website to see more. And of course, you can also see audience demographics and their interests, what they find interesting on Pinterest. Of course, if you have a demographic that they're working in, you want to take a look at their interests and write content, post imagery or videos to your website that match their interests. Easy as that. All right. So with the content on Pinterest, some of the things that you need to think about, of course, are creating and pinning images that get attention, adding visual content to your website so that it's pinnable, and then making your pins searchable. Using those hashtags, using content, labeling them, alt tags, and captions on images is very helpful on Pinterest so that people know. But when you post to Pinterest and when you pin your own content, using those labels is an incredibly helpful way to continue to reach the searches that you're trying to find with your customers. And of course, evaluate your analytics. With Instagram, this is a little bit different because it's mostly mobile. So the business value is that photos help get people to know you. Sharing eye-catching images, beautiful imagery that has the right filter, that's hashtagged, and that's commented out correctly can be very powerful with younger folks. Instagram's biggest demographic is folks under 30 or millennials. And so getting content that matches their interests and their needs is a great way to use Instagram. Instagram's owned by Facebook. It integrates really well with Facebook. So it's a great way to hit two birds with one stone. Putting your audience in the moment is really interesting, and it helps people if you have content or want to share things like birthday parties or snapshots from the back of the room when you're at a big event, whatever. All of that kind of content can be helpful. And Instagram doesn't really have great analytics built in, so you need to use tools like Iconosquare. And Iconosquare has a free level, but it also has a paid version if you want to dig in a little deeper to get that kind of feedback. Instagram content that works is photos that stand out, word images, and of course, videos. You can now share up to 15-minute videos on Instagram. Used to be a few seconds that you could share, but now you can dig in a little bit deeper. The thing is, with Instagram, people mostly are interacting with your content via mobile devices. So think about that. It's actually okay to post portrait video instead of horizontal video on Instagram because most of the time people are holding their phones in their hands when they're viewing your content. That's a typical pet peeve of most people when they publish videos and content. So try it and see what it works out for, because it's opposite of the way a lot of the web works. So try that and see how it all works. Put your audience in the moment. So sharing behind the scenes images and videos, educating people on what's happening, how-tos. This is especially fun with spas and salons. So how to do the perfect updo, how to get that yoga stretch, how to, work the kettlebells, whatever that is. Using hashtags is pretty huge on Instagram in particular. I'd say second to Twitter, but hashtagging for searchability, not for cutesiness, is important. So, a lot of people get crazy with hashtags and they'll do, this post, for example, might be hashtag yoga pose, and whatever that yoga pose actually is would be a great hashtag. But hashtag stretching out on a Monday, hashtag so happy, hashtag whatever is wasting your content and your text. Trying to be cutesy by saying hashtag so pumped up, unless people would actually search for so pumped up, it's not helpful as a hashtag. And so you have to think about that. A hashtag is a specific thing that you're using. And just to throw hashtags out there to be cutesy muddies your message. And, sometimes it's okay, but I would use the humorous or tongue-in-cheek hashtags very sparingly. And then also don't be afraid to tag your physical location, especially if you have a brick and mortar storefront. With Instagram, what to do next? Of course, share those images, tell the story of your business using relevant hashtags and underscore and hashtag relevant in those hashtags. Make sure that they actually work and that if someone was to search, it would make sense. Monday motivation, it's okay. But the specific yoga pose that you're looking for, or kettlebell tips, or, for your business, accountants quotes, whatever, that's a good hashtag. But so pumped up, or happy it's a Monday, or, Bob's going crazy, all of that stuff is just wasting your hashtag. And then watch those analytics. Iconosquare, Sprout Social, sometimes Hootsuite, or even Google can help you. And then, of course, evaluate your analytics. We're getting through and we're going to go into creating and curating content quickly. So I want to just click over, make sure we don't have any folks that are using our hashtag to see if, or to ask questions. So if you do have questions, go ahead and post on that content to see what's going on. I don't see anything right now. So hopefully we're good. If you do have a question, would love for you to use the hashtag right now. But again, if you'd rather, you can just send me that question at dave@BizzyWeb.com. All right. So in creating and curating content, there's a simple rule of thumb for the kind of content that you should share. To make your posts work for you, about 50% of everything that you do should be designed to engage people, to call them in to your conversation, to capture their attention, to be interesting. The next 30% is to prove that you know what you're doing, to be informative, to offer helpful information. And then the last 20% is to promote your business. I'm not saying to sell. What I'm saying is get people to the next step in your sales process. So either getting them to follow you, like you, connect with you, to attend an event, to download a white paper. And yes, once in a while, go ahead and post a link to buy, but that shouldn't be the main crux of that 20%. Those 50% kinds of posts might be helpful and informative infographics, just fun stuff. Here's a picture of a goat, or nice to know stuff like today in history, Eileen Collins becomes the first female astronaut to orbit to pilot a space shuttle mission. 30% helpful information. Did you know that nectarines are actually hairless peaches? I didn't, but now I do. Nope. This is from the Animal Humane Society, and this is reminding people to keep their pets indoors when it gets too cold. And then 15 LinkedIn marketing hacks to grow your business. Helpful, informative content that's going to get people more depth to the knowledge and prove that you're an expert in what you do. And then for that last 20%, it might be stop by to check out an event. And here's a cat that we're featuring at the Humane Society. Yes, products and services. And then also attend this event. And here's who's going to be there. Content curation, as opposed to authoring your own content, is sharing that content from other sources. So Santa's Laundry Line Pattern by Eleanor von Castle-Newer from Ravelry.com. Or Taza Chocolate posted this content from The Kitchen. Note that they link to that content. They're not representing that content as their own. They're not plagiarizing or just stealing content. They're sharing a little bit of information and then linking back to the original source. This is where you want to be helpful and share instead of selling. Where to find content like this? Of course, check the news. There's all kinds of stuff out there. So if you browse, if you have an RSS feed, if you check out the Today Show every morning, whatever, that kind of content can be really helpful and informative. Reading blogs can be cool. Following other people on social media, especially experts in your given field or your referral partners, sharing that kind of content can be incredibly helpful. You can set Google Alerts. Best way to learn how to use Google Alerts is just to Google Alerts. But you go to googlealerts.com. Actually, I think you just Google Alerts, and I believe it's alerts.google.com. But you just type in a keyword that specifically refers to you or your business or something that you want to keep track of, and Google will email you every time someone posts a new RSS-ified bit of content. So whether it's a blog post or something on Facebook or something on LinkedIn that matches that keyword. Subscribe to email lists of people that are helpful and informative and share a lot. I have a number of places that I lean on for helpful and informative content. And so subscribing to those and just kind of browsing that content will give you a lot of amazing stuff that you can then share to your followers. Customers or employees are also fantastic ways. Ask people what's interesting to them. Your employees know more about your frontline and what your customers are interested in than you do probably. So ask them, what should we write about? What's interesting today? And what have you found that we should share with our customers? So, and for customers, what have you found that you want to share with everybody like you? But the key is, don't forget to give credit to the original author or source as you go through this content. If you don't give credit, that's plagiarism, that's stealing. So go ahead and feel free to repurpose and reuse, but always give credit. So if you find content on a Facebook post and you repost that and give credit back, use that in your blog posts, use it in your email marketing, get that content out there wherever it makes sense, but always give that credit and ideally link back to that person of that content so that you're using it. And again, you probably want to focus on a snippet, not the entire article. Don't republish an entire article unless you get explicit permission. And then just give them a snippet and link back to the original content. So that works out really well. For photos, word images, and video, there's a lot of cool tools that you can use to grab imagery, whether it's Instagram or PicStitch, which are great apps. Word Swag, I like PhotoPin as a website, and I'll talk about that in a second. Or whether it's just in PowerPoint, you can create word images and use that content for your very own. So grabbing an image, throwing a text block on top of it in PowerPoint and putting a little bit of text and filter on it is very simple to do. Canva, which is at canva.com, is an incredibly easy tool that makes it super simple to share that kind of content. You can upload your own imagery, or they have a massive library of stock photos that are sometimes free and sometimes available for $1 or $2 that you can use and add content on top. They also have a lot of really nice templates at canva.com. Canva's getting very huge. They actually just went back for another they went out for another round of valuation, and now they're worth like $340 million on a new round of funding. So they're doing a lot of really cool stuff and getting a lot of traction. PicMonkey is also another great tool to use. Check out PicMonkey, and you grab the text, you grab the image, you put it together, and you can post on your network, all for very inexpensive. If you're looking for stock photos, there's freedigitalphotos.net, PhotoPin, which I've mentioned, Stock Vault, or free images. The key warning here is don't just go to Google and search for images and try to use that content on your website. I have had clients of mine search for an image. In one particular and famous case, they were looking for a picture of a hamster in a wheel. They found the perfect image. They linked to it on a landing page on their website and used that to promote an event. And then they got a very nicely worded invoice from Shutterstock that said, thank you for using our imagery. That's in violation of our terms of service, and we'll sue you. But if you'd like to avoid the lawsuit, you're welcome to pay us $1,500 today. And here's the invoice for $1,500. We battled with Shutterstock a little bit on that on behalf of our client. who had done this actually before they started working with us. But we got that knocked far down to, I think it was $300 or $400 at the end. But still, going into Google can cost you a lot of money if you're not very, very careful. So in general, using these links like free digital photos, PhotoPin, Stock Vault, free images are all much better alternatives to rolling the dice with Google image search. If you're creating word images, look for tips or quotes, promotions, things that you can announce maybe. And the key thing is it's going to stand out more if you take that little bit of time and throw an image behind it. So in this case, tip, use cayenne pepper as an alternative to pesticides. No problemo, easy to do. With video, you can share content via social media. If you have a YouTube video, you can use smartphone broadcasting from wherever you are to show behind the scenes content, interacting with followers, answering questions, interviewing experts, or training in how to. Tools like Periscope, Meerkat, or Facebook Live are all very cool. Here's a couple of differences between the different kinds of content. Periscope, one person can broadcast at a time. There's no scheduling in advance. Meerkat, you can do the same thing. You can schedule broadcasts. Facebook Live, again, it's built into your page and it's simple posting. It's also the best way to get engagement on Facebook right now. And it has a really simple interface at the expense of a little bit of polish. So if you have a horizontal video that you want to publish, in general, by default right now, Facebook Live only broadcasts in really kind of squarish content. So unless you have something that's square, it's a little bit hinky, but in general, it can be an incredibly powerful tool when done right. Get a smartphone enabled tripod, something that you can clip onto your phone, talk into that so you're not all jerky, or take a little bit of time to get one of the more powerful embedding and broadcasting tools. And I won't go into that right now because it's really in depth and there's a lot of information on Facebook Live itself. But in general, with an iOS or an Android device, you can easily shoot video out of the front or back of your phone and use that as engaging content. And for more on that, check in about 9 minutes when I do my Facebook Live overview of this webinar. Next steps for you? Well, take some time and create an editorial calendar. Think about what you want to do at least weekly. Take time, for example, on a Friday to think about the next week. The awesome thing that you can do here is you can set aside time and you can auto-publish or auto-post content throughout the week. So if you only have time once a week, that's fine. You can actually post that right to your website. With BizzyWeb's websites, you can actively post to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, and more right from your website, and you can schedule those posts to go live at any time. Same thing with Facebook or with Hootsuite if you want to do that kind of thing. But the key is also be flexible. Keep your eyes peeled for content that's going to be interesting and go ahead and share that throughout the week. And you might be surprised that some of that content is going to be very well used or very well interacted with. People are going to dig it and use that content and that thing, either the timing or the type of content, as an indicator for stuff that you should do a little bit more of. As a reminder, if you want to take advantage of the special $5 a month constant contact thing, this is how you do it. This is only available to people that attend this webinar. And so if you click on this link today, you'll get access to this. You need to go to constantcontact.com/event-Meyer in order to do that. Be sure to attend our training and events. We've got all kinds of really cool stuff coming up. I'm presenting tomorrow morning on content tips for social media at the Anoka Area Chamber of Commerce. So I hope to see you in person there. And again, if you would like to take advantage of a trial and not do anything much with this stuff, you can go to /cc at BizzyWeb.com to get more detail. If you'd like to stay up to date with our stuff, just text Bizzy, BIZZY, to 22828, and we will send you a weekly email or sometimes just a monthly email that'll give you fresh tips and hints on how to use social media and digital marketing to a better advantage, and or just invite you to upcoming Bizzy webinars. So we never sell on these events. or if inside of our email tools, when we send you notes, it's designed to help you, not to sell to you. So that's my promise to you if you do subscribe. Again, if you like the PowerPoint deck today, go ahead and send me an email at dave@BizzyWeb.com, or you can give us a call and ask us for more details at 612-4BUSY-O. Thank you all very much for hanging out with me. Got you in under an hour here, had a lot of content. If you do have questions, you can either tweet to that hashtag at #BizzyWebinar, send me an email at dave@BizzyWeb.com, or just stop by sometime because we'd love to see you. Again, I am Dave Meyer with BizzyWeb, reminding you that at BizzyWeb, we help you generate buzz without getting stung. Have a fantastic week. Talk to you soon.